Welcome back, gang. It's Delty from TES Gaming, about to queue it up for the Cauldron. Run through here on my Stamina Dragonknight, giving you some tips on how to play this build in a hard veteran dungeon. One of my favorite, the Cauldron. Queuing up here to the Cauldron, what you need to know is this is a melee heavy, tank heavy, and pretty healer intensive main last fight. Some of the things will kind of kill you one shots working up to the main boss, but it's pretty easy couple bosses until you get to the main one. So really the typical usual suspects, trash packs, all the way working up to the main boss. So I'm going to grab this class, haven't done it. This is kind of a newer character, an orc, Stamina Dragonknight. I have a Nord that I tank with, but this is an orc, and it's a pretty good race for stamina PvE DPS. If you wanted kind of optimal, I'd probably go with the Khajiit right now because the crit damage bonus is so strong. So gear I'm running on this right now, it's kind of a hodgepodge setup. I run Soul's-Ons, and not Best in Slot or anything, and Briarheart. So the Soul's-Ons is really good for dungeons, trash holes where you have reliantly mobs, because you're going to get this little blue thing like right there. You're going to pick that up, and it's going to give you 30-second crit damage and critical rating bonus. It's quite noticeable damage-wise. So those are sets that you can flex in and out depending if you have Blackwood or you don't, or you are doing trials or you're doing solo arenas or not, because you want to be able to pick it up. So it's kind of like Essence Thief that comes from White Gold Tower, one of my favorite sets in the game. But so that's the main 5-piece. Briarheart is not an optimal PvE DPS at top tier endgame, but what it's great for is survivability, especially if you're playing melee and you're taking a lot of pressure and you're not playing magic sitting back there at range. So it's very easy to go get a hold of that set. Another option you can use is Leviathan is a really good option. Leviathan comes from Crypto Hearts, and it's kind of like the Stamina's Mother's Sorrow. And also, I don't know when you're going to be watching this video, but the gear sets are going to be hybridized. So things like Medusa's, that's going to give critical rating across the board, not just magic or spell crit. So there's going to be a lot of options. Basically 2 5-pieces, and you can run a mythic. Harpooner's Kilt is what I like. Death Dealer's Fate's another good option, or running a Monster Helm. All right, first boss. So this one is pretty easy. There's like just a one-shot as long as you don't interrupt it. So kind of as a melee being behind it, it'll do like a fart mechanic, shooting out poisons, and DPS have to rotate and kill the ads. The biggest thing is announcing if you're chained up. Someone will have to get chained. We have to go over and do some damage to it and kill it. Other than that, it's very, very simple fight. So let's give it a go. Okay, so I'm going to buff up, pre-buff, Flames of Oblivion, shoot 1 light attack, Caltrops. Put my big old thing down. That little circle there that healer is using is Oli. So that's a lot of damage. There's the fart mechanic. So I'm going to slide over here and use my main spammable, which stacks up 3 times. So I'm going to go back to my back bar. Oblivion. Stampede dot back up. See, that's the bash mechanic. And then here comes the slime dude. So 1, 2, slime dudes down. And I think these guys here, the green ones, your primary target. So now you can see that blue Soul's-Ons in the corner. So we're at 50%, and you can see someone got tethered up here. So I'm going to get that down. There we go. Healer's back up. Looking good. Got my orb down. Bashity bash. I'm going to fully charge, so I'm a little bit low on gas. And some of the things that you can use to sustain your resources on this build, you can always use Consuming Trap. That's from the Soul Magic skill line. People don't think about using that, but it's really handy. Bash here. So Soul Trap, Vicious Ophidion's a 5-piece you can use. Vengeance Leech is a 5-piece you can use. So if you don't want to use the gear route, your back bar, how I have it set up, the Flames of Oblivion right here, very, very hard-hitting dot you can cast prior to combat, which is nice, but consider that your flex spot. So things I'll put in there is Consuming Trap for resources staying. Let's just show you how this works here. So World, Soul Magic, Consuming Trap. Also, another lesson is, when you're doing these dungeons, realize that top tier players slot in, flex in abilities and skills all the time. So there'll be things that I'll actually change out depending on trash or bosses or specific dungeons. So it's not like you just have one specific loadout and you never change anything on it and you're good for the end of time. No, no, no. Very specific fights and or encounters, you can swap skills and or gear sets. So top tier players will actually have different bars for trash mobs and so on. Oops. So I'm going to put a Consuming Trap down, Trap Beast. you'll see once this mob dies, flood of stamina. See that flood of stamina? So it's a really good thing if there's trash mobs and you want to sustain. You're going to lose DPS by doing this because Flames of Oblivion is such a hard-hitting dot. But I'd rather lose a little bit of DPS and have basically infinite sustain. And so that's how you can kind of get around that. And with that item set, if you don't have some of those sustain ones or you don't have other passives, just go with the Consuming Trap. Very hard on melee DPS, so it's important for the tank to taunt and then kind of walk it back. There's going to be a red circle that I just can't eat. So make sure that when that comes up, I won't be able to do any damage unless you pull it back. Same thing, a lot of interrupts. And then DPS, we're going to have to rotate around and kill the ads and trash packs. If you can taunt them and kind of change them in, it'll be easier to do that. But your job as a tank really is to kind of make sure we bash. We'll try to help you out on that. Pull out the boss by running backwards when you can so it follows you out of the big red circle. Otherwise, it's really hard for me as a DPS. So let's give it a go. All right, pre-buff, use a potion. Here we go. So I'm going to use Consuming Trap on this build now. So I'm going to get in that Olo circle here. Razor Caltrops, making sure I'm at the flank. So the flank, you're going to do extra damage typically. See, that's the red circle I was talking about. So I can't really do damage. Tank did a great job trying to pull back the boss. Yep, see, that's a great job as a tank there. So that's very helpful. Otherwise, I would just be sitting there AFK, not being able to do damage. So I'm going to chop these guys down a little bit. So great job of the tank again. Chaining them all in. So now I can cleave AoE, do damage to everything. So you can see how handy that is for the tank to do that. It makes these fights go a lot easier. So that's the mechanic that has to be interrupted. And you can see I couldn't get it. So something like Crushing Shock for magic at range either prevents that death, because it's a channel that you can prevent it. Oops. So we're going to have this attack. So now we're down a healer. And a lot going on. A lot of crap on the ground. It'd be very hard for me to res. So I'm going to use Carve as my main spammable. Thankfully, I got Briarheart on, so I should be able to heal myself pretty well. Got my Soul's Ons up. There we go. I'm going to put my banner down. See, that's the interruptible thing. Yep, there we go. Try to get these guys down if I can. And that's usually the thing that will stop you from getting a trifecta or a no death, is that specific one shot if you don't bash and interrupt. But it's hard unless your tank is right on top of it, and or you have a ranged interrupt. Crushing Shock, the Venom Injection, the other morph of it. But that's the way it goes sometimes. So for when we got this trifecta run, that was the only thing that really stopped us. The final boss really didn't give us much fits. It was really that boss. So again, Crushing Shock is that range interrupt. And Bo has one as well. Let me show you. So Bo here, this morph, and I don't ever use it, so Venom Arrow. That will knock folks off balance, and then the Destruction Staff here, Crushing Shock. So Magic Storks use Crushing Shock primarily as their main spammable, so it's great bringing a ranged DPS like that into the fight. Even a Magic Nightblade can switch it up for that. So if you're going the trifecta, usually, oddly enough, that's the thing that stops you, is because it's a very short channel, and it's in bad AoE, so you kind of have to preemptively know that. Another thing is, you know, it's not just the tank who's responsible for bashing. So you can't just be like AFK in the dungeon going, oh, let them take care of it. That's their job. No. It's everyone's job. So it just happens, and especially the latest and greatest dungeons in here, bashing is just a heavy part of the dungeon and mechanics. So you just got to be aware of that. And you get my blue little dot, that's the Soul's Ons. And so you can get it up, and it'll help you maintain that uptime. So 30 seconds is the buff. That's why I absolutely love it. So it's a little bit better than Essence Thief. And the crits stacks on Major and Minor Savagery as well, so you can get a real nicey, juicy amount of crit and crit damage. And again, if I don't know when you're watching this video, so Elder Scrolls Online is getting a crit damage cap. If you don't know this, when you're watching this video, in advanced statistics, it'll tell you here. So you're going to want to look at your build fully buffed using, you know, all your buffs and major and minor force. You don't want to go over 125. So make sure you test out your build, and this one specifically won't go over that, even running major and minor force. So that way it's a wasted stat. So typically what you're going to do now with this coming the Deadlands update 32 in November of 2021 is you're going to build to a certain level of crit rating, build to a certain level of crit damage, and then build to a certain level of raw damage coming from weapon spell damage or max stats like max stamina, max magicka. And that's kind of what's going to happen. So you might change one or two things out to make sure you don't hit that. But okay, this is a pretty easy boss here. All right, so for this boss, I think it's very simple. Just bash and it kind of ports around. We might be able to do 100% burn on it. If he teleports right away, then we'll just kill the ads, and if he doesn't, we'll go for a burn. All right, so yeah, we've had it. So 4.5 million health, that's not a lot at all. So when we say teleport, there's a mechanic in here. Drop a banner and just assume they don't. So he has a colo up. See our healer, our DPS is doing a good job saving their ultimates for this phase. Okay, so we're at 70%. Yeah, see, teleports. And then I'll have 2 ads here. Okay, so we get the ads down. That needs to be interrupted or it's just devastating. So I'm going to kill the ad here. Get my souls ons. 1, 2. A little bit difficult as a melee. 3, 4. And then just start swiping. You can block or dodge roll this. So I'm going to dodge roll it. Okay. And we're close to execute, interrupt. 32, so I'm looking for that. Now I'm going to skip these trash pulls here and look for it. Okay, so I'm going to throw my caltrops. I'm going to reapply my buffs. I'm going to use Dawnbreaker. I'm at 25%. It's going to give me a flood 300 weapon damage. So if I can get through Xe here with this, get that flood of weapon damage, because I'm not going to be able to do a banner, and plus he's too mobile. So that's an instance where I would use that instead. Reapply a couple of my dots and just start chopping. Big executioners. There we go. And the strength of the two-hand, and why I'm using it, is Carve is a great main spammable when you struggle with survivability. So I don't have pale order on. I'm playing in a group. Carve's going to give me a bubble, and it's going to allow me to stack bleed effects, damage over time, and up to 3. So it's going to give me a way to survive in melee range, and also an advantage of, well, doing a lot of damage in AoE cleave as a main spammable. So it's better than dual wield I found, and actually really helped my gameplay going from that dual wield to 2H. It's a lot of fun. Another advantage of 2H, if you don't know, a couple advantages is Battle Rush. So Battle Rush can give you stamina recovery when you kill something. Stam Dragonknight right now kind of struggle with resource sustain, so that's nice as well. Dual wield, however, is going to have daggers, which give you extra crit rating. So there's pros and cons to every weapon type, making stamina-based PvE a lot of fun because it's not a one-size-fits-all. And in fact, you could run without a bow, and you could go dual wield on your back bar and use Black Rose Prison weapons, and have a really strong setup as well using Deadly Cloak, Black Rose Prison, and do the back bar instead of Arrow Barrage or Endless Hail. You could run 2H or a dual wield on your front and 2H on the back, and use Stampede and Executioner for execute. So many options, making stamina really fun to kind of fit the playstyle, what the actual build lacks. And for stamina, Dragonknight, for real, it's a resource sustain, and you can get around it by using Consuming Trap like we're doing here or other things. All right, so this one is kind of just a kind of an odd mini boss thing. John will do the little orbs and destroy these 5 things. It's really heavy ads, so just a lot of heavy ads, trying to prioritize taunting, the most important, the one-shotters, and then just doing your best to chains them in. Don't feel like you have to chains and taunt everything. Just get the big nasty ones that can one-shot us. Otherwise, we'll die. But so what's going to happen is there's going to be like a poison thing. I'm doing a terrible job of explaining it, but there'll be something on the ground, and you'll hear an audio cue about that. And so that's kind of a useful thing. Also, subtext can be useful when you're learning these fights initially. The text from the quest, because it'll kind of cue you to specific things. You hear that sound right there? There's the poison there. So John's going to grab it. And when you get this poison, what you got to do is kind of, I don't know, infect these things. And then once you do there, you go here and go boom, kaboom. You can do 2 of them and blow them up by the time the round's done. Or John's going for 3. Dang. There we go. And kaboomy. See? So it's kind of a weird, goofy thing. After you do this, then there's going to be ads. So I'm going to go over here to where my tank is. So, and there's going to be like 2 or 3 phases, depending on how fast you get it done. So what I was doing right there is block casting, even as a stam build. When I'm block casting, I'm holding block and casting abilities that don't require a channel. That can be really useful. It'll burn through your stamina and you won't have any recovery, but it's better than dying. So that's what I'm doing when I preemptively know that we're going to take a lot of pressure. I cast like a whole block like this, and I'm still casting my abilities. I won't be able to light attack weave, but it just takes the pressure off me and all the damage off me just for a few seconds. But it will really drain your stamina, so you have to be careful, but it can be useful. And you can see how good of stamina sustain we're getting we're using that consuming trap on our back bar 3 key. So I don't have any sustain sets. I'm just running the dubious drink and so forth, but it really makes a big difference. So yes, it's going to lower your DPS, but you got to really worry about the basic things. You can have a very, very strong build and play it a little off meta, a little bit less damage and survive. That's the most important thing. And then after you work with other people for quite some time, they'll be running gear sets and Symphony of Blades and this and all that and Stone Talkers and everything where you don't even have to worry about sustain. But starting out or playing with folks that you're unfamiliar with, you got to be survival, independent of a healer. You don't know what gear sets they're running. So you, just like in PvP, treat it like a solo PvP instance. Like, I don't know what they're all running, so I'm going to run this because I got to be good for myself. And we got that down. You can see that the stam sustain's a lot better. We got 10 stacks of harpooners. This is where it gets nasty, okay? So we're going to do a little off healing. I do preemptively do echoing vigor because it will heal other people too. So I'm going to target that tater tot. I'm going to throw a consuming trap on him. Reason being is that's probably going to be the first one that dies, right? So you see it? It dies. Look at my stam. It's really good. Okay, so we're going to do 1 caltrops, endless barrage here, consuming trap, and carve. I'm not going to worry about any fancy things because that's going to happen to me. Get punted. So carve, look at that shield. Boom. Fine. You want to hit me with big old flame waves? No problem. I'm getting to carve your face off. Big shields. I'm going to turn behind it. Carve, keeping my shield up, keeping my stacks up. So when in doubt, use carve as a main spam. It's going to stack that damage over time effects, and this is going to keep you alive. So if you're like, oh my god, I have to, apply my stampede to get the damage over time. Like, I gotta do, noxious breath. No. Settle down. Just do what's gonna keep you alive first. And if it's just too complicated, make it simpler. You can slot things like camo hunter. If it's too complicated and you're not really, maintaining the buffs all the time, it's better to keep it simple and be more survivable and actually do the damage that you need than not. So this build specifically is hard, right? Because like if I'm doing 2 dots on my back, 1, 2, 3, 4 on my front. So if you really run as much damage as possible, you want to have more damage over time effects. Well, Stam Dragonknight has nothing but damage over time effect. It does a great job on that. So be careful because keep it simple, stupid. And when I was learning this, I started off with dual wield and I got really frustrated. I wasn't having fun. I wasn't surviving much. My resource sustain sucked. And I'm like, all right, Delta, you got to take some of your own medicine here. What do you tell people? Tell people, keep it simple, stupid. So I went back to the drawing board, kept just a couple dots on my bar, made it really simple, and made it survivable, made it resource sustained first. Okay, deep breath. Then I started adding back the damage over time effects once I got comfortable with it, and then it became second nature to use all of them in synergy. But another thing people might not tell you about these builds is priorities. And so when we talk about priorities, like right there, I'm taking tons of damage. I ain't worried about all my dots. I'm just hitting carve. Okay, now I got some pressure. The tank's taking everything off. I'm going to hit noxious breath and worry about that. So you need to know kind of what does the most damage. So Venomous Claw on my front bar, single target, most damage. If there's 6 mobs around, Noxious Breath makes more sense hitting it because it's going to do a cone in front of me and do a lot more damage. But if I'm doing just the boss, that's what I would do. Okay, so let's do the hard mode. All right, let me explain this. Okay, hard mode, buckle up. So pull back just a little bit or it's going to aggro it. So come back just a little bit. Yep, be real careful. Okay, so there's a lot to explain here. It's really heavy on the tank and mobility. There's fire lines and so forth. We'll kind of have to move as a group. John will kind of call the cues. But the main thing is we're kind of shifting back and forth, avoiding the fire lines. If you die, that's not a big deal. There's going to be totems that come up that kind of block our way in a bunch of ads. I'll probably prioritize grabbing the synergy and shooting the totems and blowing them up. If the healer gets it and does it, great. Mobility is key here. So you're going to have to use abilities and things that are highly mobile, like Barrier as an ultimate, Resto ult. Colo's still good for damage, but think about mobility is key because we're going to be moving back and forth. This isn't a 4-minute Sunspire trial fight. And then really getting Rod tons of resources because he's going to be taunting tons of stuff and there's going to be a lot going on. So I could sit here and explain it for 10 minutes or we could just get in here. Red's bad, AoE kill stuff, and we'll just move as a group. All right, let's give it a go. So like, again, mobility is key. And ground effect AoEs are only semi-good here because you're going to be moving. So you'll see this here. So I'm going to put this down. And there'll be like a burn phase specifically. So 1, Stampede, 2, 3. So Colo's up. Doing a good amount of damage so far. So see those blocks here? They're damageable. Red stuff on the ground. Melee, it's miserable because there's crap everywhere. So you see this here, Lyranth. And that's the little synergy. And what it'll let me do is kind of destroy these stones easier. See? So I kind of shoot them off and it's down. Okay. So what we're going to do is kind of maintain a little bit of off healing if we can. Caltrops. You can see it doesn't really make sense to even use Trap Beast right now. Okay, so we're going to chop these down if I can. Now it stops right here. See this? This is where you put everything on the ground. Yep. Warhorn out. I did a consuming trap on one of them. Potion off cooldown. So I'm just going to do as much pressure. I'm going to do a little off heal, and then we're going to rotate back. The thing that gets real tricky on this is the very last part of this. It's going to be 2 of these. So 2 lines, and you have to stay in a really nice knit group on hard mode. So when you're doing this non-hard mode, you don't have to be so close to the flame waves, but you're going to if we're going to do it on both. Here we go. So I'm going to drop the house here. Rod knows exactly when to park it as soon as those flame waves. And this is when you're going to want to drop the house during this little brief intermission. Is that what you call it? So make sure AoE cleaves are your friend. So Caltrops, Arrow Barrage, big AoE. I'm going to put my Barb Trap down there, just so it procs the minor force for a while. I'm going to grab the synergy, and my screen goes blue a little bit. No, I'm not doing some weird thing. There we go. So we're at 44%. So I'm kind of looking back here. I'm going to self-heal a little bit, kind of spread out if we can. It's tough for melee, so you kind of hang out and see if you can fulfill this role. Don't overlap the circles. Okay, now everything's down. You see that blue little circle there? I'm going to grab that. That's a Souls On buff. So I'm going to try to carve them. 1, 2, 3. Got the carves down. We're at 34%. So we're going to see 2 flame waves pretty soon. Okay. Consuming trap on one of the little critters there. Looks like the healer may have got the other thing. So I'm going to pull back. Consuming trap on a couple of them here. Okay, I got the thing. Oh, there we go. So we're going to wait. We got a banner up now. 25%. We're not getting the second flame wave, which is awesome. I don't know if that's a bug or... Oh, there we go. Spoke too soon. There we go. Now we got to keep a tight knit. See that? So it's going to be hard when the other mechanics come up. So we got to keep it close. Really hard for the tank. This is an extremely hard job for the tank, but he's doing a great job. We've put him through the ringer before. So 1, 2. I'm going to cleave those down. Throw in some off heals if I can, because it's hard on the healer as well. Okay, we got a gazillion things here, so keep it simple. Noxious Breath. I'm at 114 ult, so I'm close to a Dawnbreaker. Use a Dawnbreaker because it's mobile, and I shouldn't be able to get to a... Oops. Dodge roll that. I'm probably not going to get to a banner or have the ability to place on the ground for very long, so that's why I use that. You can see them dots are ticking on them. Boom, baby! Got that hard mode done. Great job, team. Ooh, Waking Flames helm. Ooh, and shield. Yeah. Got those. Got to look good, play good. Big drip. So that was it. Got on increased to 9. Yeah, brand new character. Got this thing leveled up quick. So what did we learn out of this dungeon? I would guess say mobility is key. Maintaining your buffs and priorities. Priorities. Knowing exactly what to click when is the most important thing. If I'm in a single target, I'm going to use my claw. If I'm in an AoE, I'm going to use Noxious Breath. If I just don't know what the heck else to hit, I'm going to hit the 4 key and get a big, nice shield. So prioritizing what you're going to use with this is really important. We didn't get a no death. We just had 1 death, but otherwise, really good run. So great teamwork. Everyone did a great job, and thanks for watching.